another kind of story altogether.
Who's feeling young now?
We used to think in terms of these three equal things: pensions, Social Security, personal savings. That's the sort of three legs, if you will, of our future retirement. There's all these social structures that we've relied on in the past. But the reality is it doesn't look that way anymore. Pensions, this idea of working in a company for 30 years and retiring, we're on sort of the last generation of that.
One of the last generations retiring with the guaranteed steady income of a pension for life.
That's not a very good stool.
But even for generations past, retiring with a pension was not quite as common nor as reliable as we've come to believe.
We have a bit of a mythology in our thinking about the private pension system.
Mark Iwry is a senior advisor to the US Treasury Secretary on retirement policy.
We tend sometimes to idealize what it used to be like. And many of the people who had those defined benefit plans have gotten wonderful benefits from them. But many have also gotten relatively smaller benefits because they did not stay with the employer long enough.
And pensions are even less the norm today.
Things are not as stable. The company's willingness to make a 40, 50, 60-year commitment to its employees was something much more thinkable back in the 1950s, the post-war period, than it is in today's much more rapidly changing world and much more competitive economy. So employers are simply not as willing to enter into those kinds of very long-term financial commitments.
Since the 1980s, employers have increasingly shed pension plans in favor of the 401k plans that shift the risk and responsibility of retirement planning to the employee.
The employee in recent times has to take more of the initiative. And that message that if you're relying mostly on the 401k, you ought to be contributing, if you can, something like double digits, not 3 or 4% of pay.
Now, employees must decide not only if they'll save for the future, but also how they'll save.
In the 401k, you have to decide typically how to invest among a menu of alternatives. Now, that can work perfectly well, and the individual choice is a good thing. On the other hand, many people over the years have made choices that may not be so wise.
Many retirement industry professionals say giving individuals the choice to save is working.
When someone is covered by a 401k or similar savings program at work, they're more than 10 times likely to actually save than someone who doesn't have an option at work and their only option is really to figure it out on their own into an individual retirement account.
The percentage of people who can save in an IRA, or individual retirement accounts, who actually do so is something like 1 out of 10 or less. Whereas in a 401k, the percentage of people who could save, who actually do so, is more like 3/4, 2/3, 3/4 traditionally.
But the 401k saving system hasn't worked for everyone. Half of American workers don't have access to a 401k plan. And those who do have the option don't always take advantage of it.
The system that we put in place 30 years ago is a failed experiment. We instituted a retirement plan that was a do-it-yourself model. It relied on people making decisions every paycheck about how much to save, where to put that money, and then when to take it out. Should they take it out to buy a new house, to put a kid through school? Those were decisions that are very hard for human beings to make. Why? Because human beings have very pressing needs.
And of course, we always got that balancing act between, living today, right, the present, and planning for the future. And the moment we start planning for the future, that involves all these sort of, right, fears, concerns, uncertainties, all that stuff that's not really fun.
One thing's for certain. Debbie and Aaron are worried about today and tomorrow.
I mean, we're just sort of maintaining, which is okay. I mean, at least we're able to, pay our bills. To me, that's not enough. I don't want to just cover the expenses. I want to be able to also save for the future. Good job. We're both working. We should be able to do that. It seems odd that we're not.